So right now for
So,
marketing, we're only doing Facebook and SMS, right? So
mm,
for SMS, we're having the most success with just targeting older leads in our CRM. We create like a buy box, obviously, a buy box of the properties and the property types that we've done the most amount of deals with, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and then of course areas, right? We pick our best areas and just texting those properties over and over and over again, we're having a lot of success, and that's why we continue to do SMS. And then we're doing for inbound Facebook, and this is a little bit newer for us. I think we're only about 4 months in.
nice.
Closed like 2 deals with it, and I like it just because it's a little bit different from any other marketing channel. Whereas like I have the control of the creative, right, and what I want to put out, and so I get to
Right.
have a little bit of fun with that. So it's newer to me still. I'm still learning how to really dial it in, but I like it. So right now it's just Facebook and SMS for marketing.
Hey, my name's Julian Castle, and today I got a special guest. His name is Emilio Lara. Emilio has gotten $2 million in assignment fees. He started when he was 17 years old. He's now 22, just recently, after July. And we're going to talk about how how we're going to talk about the promise is that you're going to learn how he did it so that you can do it too. So we're just going to talk about it and his progression throughout, his life so far and career. And yeah, we're just excited to learn. So, Emilio, how are you today? Thank you for coming on.
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. Super excited to kind of have a conversation with you. Obviously, it's our first time talking, so maybe we can just learn a little bit about our businesses, about each other, and just kind of feed off each other. So this should be a great time.
For sure, man. So yeah, this is great. And I'm just kind of curious. What got me into real estate, was basically that I tried other things like, I tried social media marketing, I tried drop shipping, I tried drop servicing. I was kind of jumping from little, I guess from uh small business to small business. And
Yeah,
I had some success, but like I didn't really see that, I could have the dream that I wanted, which is like I always saw the real estate guys that had like the nice cars, the houses, the beautiful wives, the
yeah,
beautiful family. And so I was like, that's amazing for me. And so that's what got me into real estate. And so that's because I saw that it was proof that I could have it, to
of
what, what
course.
what was it that got you in, to real estate?
Well, I was 17, so I was still in high school, watching just YouTube videos, watching Jerry Norton,
Mm,
was that Kong, just people like that. And I always thought, that's something I'd be interested in doing on the side, like as a side hustle.
yeah.
And then I was working at my brother's food truck and just decided to start making calls. And
Mm,
it took me about 6 months to get my first deal, but I think it was really just more of the interest of wanting to make money on my own, and rather than just kind of continuing and building something for somebody else, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And
But yeah,
congrats. And so you basically you did your first deal, or you picked up, the phone and started dialing, and doing all those things just off of YouTube videos. Like uh what did you learn throughout that process that you took action on?
just that I needed to get good at sales. I needed to learn how to talk to people and essentially, not persuade, but understand what the game was and be able to talk to sellers and make them know that I know what I'm talking about, right? Because that's the biggest thing is when I'm starting out, I didn't know what I was talking about. I was starting on my words, not understanding, what a due diligence period was. And so my first contract was a mess, right? I think I had to get like three different amendments or addendums just because everything wasn't in order. And so over time, you kind of just build the skills and the sales skills and being able to learn how to talk to people. So I think that was the biggest thing for me.
That's amazing. Yeah, so learning how to talk to people, communication.
Yeah.
So tell us about your first deal. Like, what was it like? Like, I guess, what was the situation? What price did you get it at? And I guess what you sold it at, if you remember the details.
I do. I do. I remember very specifically the details. So I got it under contract for $190,000, and it
Mm,
was funny. Not to get too kind of deep into it, but I guess it was. You always hear, you always have a trouble with certain demographics in wholesaling, right? When you're trying to buy a property, right? There's certain demographics that of people that you just don't typically buy properties from,
yeah,
and this seller was actually not a super distressed homeowner. They were not like in financial distress or anything. They actually owned, I think, like a couple preschools, so they were well off financially. They just
yeah,
owned a property in a really bad neighborhood. Tenant was paying rent on time. They just didn't want it anymore. It was an asset that they were willing to just kind of let go of. And
yeah.
this was in 2020. 2021, so it was really easy to get deals sold. And so I actually got it under contract for 190 and sold it for 212. So I made $22,000. And what was funny about that is that that exact property was on the market like 9 months prior, maybe 10 months prior, for 200,000, and it didn't sell. And so just
Wow.
with time, right, with how the market progressed, I was able to assign it for even more than it was on the market for when it didn't sell. So just, I guess, the timing that I got into it, of course, but yeah, that was my
That's
first deal.
amazing. Yeah, and how'd you find a buyer? Because I know there's more steps to that. So, I mean, how were you able to find a buyer at that point, in
At
time?
that time, just Facebook. I was looking up on Facebook groups, and it was funny. My buyer on that deal, I didn't find out until after. I think like right after we closed. He was actually his first time buying a deal from a wholesaler. So it
Mm,
was my first time doing a deal. It was his first time buying from a wholesaler. So it was like a learning experience all around.
gotcha. That's awesome. And what was it that throughout the process, the addendums that you had to make, what was it that you had to amend to kind of make the deal work that you can, share with us and give us the details about?
Yeah, absolutely. So off the top of my head, it was like, I lock up a deal with, offering the seller $1,000 earnest money deposit. And, they own preschool. So they're like, $1,000, what is this? I need $5,000. So got that. That was the first one. I think the second one was that they were just a little bit like, they could tell I was new, right? Or I don't know if they could tell I was new, but I was shaky. I didn't really know what I was talking about. So they wanted to add some extra like repercussions for themselves. Whereas like, I think it was, they wanted me to get earnest money in first and then I could see the property, right? So I didn't even get eyes on the property or get a buyer in until after I had to borrow $5,000 from one of my brothers to put the earnest money in.
Wow.
And so, and it's funny now because most deals we're not even putting earnest money in. We just let the buyers do it for us, right? So
Yeah.
it's been a wild experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so I'm assuming that they put some kind of precautions there, like for example, put in earnest money first, and then they give you a due diligence period, maybe not as long as most deals you do now have, right? So you were confident, I guess, at that point to bring in the $5,000 and put it in there. Do you remember?
At this point, I can't even remember whether I had the buyer lined up or not, or whether I knew it was a good deal or not. I think it was really just hopefulness. There was
Nice.
even like a certain point in the deal where it seemed like it was gonna go south. Um, I just don't even remember why, but the seller wanted to back out at one point, but I was able to save the deal just by simply getting on the phone with them and just talking to them. So that's really all it comes down to with this. I think the biggest skill, and anybody that talks to me about this, excuse me, I just tell them that you need to learn how to talk to people, learn how to communicate with people about your product and service. Which is obviously you're trying to provide them a smooth and smooth sailing transaction, right, where they don't have to worry about anything.
For sure. Awesome. So okay, great. So that's great. So that's what you did. You started calling, and can you give us a little bit of a rundown, like what kind of lists you pulled? Yeah, like what you did essentially to get that deal.
To start out, yeah, and
Yeah, to
honestly,
start
it's
out.
obviously this is back in 2021, so I want to make that disclaimer, right? What
Hmm.
the way I started out then would not be the way I start out now, and I tell that to anybody who asks me about what I'm doing.
Yeah,
But essentially, I was pulling all different types of lists. I started out pulling. I think I started in like 6 different states. I was just trying to throw something at the wall and see what stuck. But ultimately, I wanted to kind of stay somewhat in my backyard. So I'm here in California. So I stay, in like northern to central California. So most of the appointments that I'm going on are like anywhere from like an hour to 2 hours from me. But obviously, it's worth it. But the list, as far as what I'm pulling, is just absentee owners, people who have owned properties for 15 plus years. Now you can pull people who recently inherited properties. But as far as like list pulling right now, I would just be pretty broad and just go with absentee homeowners. People who are not living in their property and just start there because it's pretty often times that somebody has a tenant in there that is just not treating the property well, or they would just entertain a cash offer, right?
for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So so that's what you would pull now. Is there a different way you would start now if you were to give someone advice?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for like obviously the cheapest way to go, We're still having success with SMS. I know a lot of people are not. That's something that we still are having success with, just because our lead, like our barrier for a lead is super low. We're just kind of trying to get anybody who raises their hand and get on the phone with them and then qualify them.
Yeah.
And our qualification process, I feel like, is really solid. And so we're able to really understand whether that homeowner is somebody we should be making an offer to or not.
Mhm.
But I would start with, SMS, and then just getting as many people on the phone as you can, so that way you can build those sales skills, right? Because obviously with SMS, it's kind of hard to build any sales skills, right? You got to get them on the phone.
Yeah.
So that's where, cold calling has that upper hand, but obviously cold calling is, I think there's a much better task that you could be doing to create more revenue for your business.
Right. Like return on time. Uh,
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, can you give us a little breakdown of what you're doing now with your business? Just, I guess, overall view of what you're doing, how it looks like. Um,
Yeah. So right now for
so,
marketing, we're only doing Facebook and SMS, right?
mhm,
So for SMS, we're having the most success with just targeting older leads in our CRM.
mhm,
We create like a buy box, obviously, a buy box of the properties and the property types that we've done the most amount of deals with, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and then of course areas, right? We pick our best areas, and just texting those properties over and over and over again, we're having a lot of success, and that's why we continue to do SMS. And
mhm.
then we're doing for inbound Facebook, and this is a little bit newer for us. I think we're only about 4 months in.
Nice.
We closed like 2 deals with it, and I like it just because it's a little bit different from any other marketing channel. Where it's like I have the control of the creative, right, and what I want to put out, and so I get to
Right.
have a little bit of fun with that. So it's newer to me still. I'm still learning how to really dial it in, but I like it. So right now it's just Facebook and SMS for marketing, and then as far as like what my team structure looks like. On the sales side, it's myself. I'm still locking up deals. We have one
Mhm,
acquisition manager and then one like full-time appointment setter.
mhm.
And then on the like admin side, we have one full-time texter. So all she's doing is texting lists, texting leads, responding to leads, and then responding to people within our CRM that text or call. And then she's also notifying us notifying the sales team like, hey, this person needs a call. And then we have a full-time like executive assistant, which is just doing all the other admin stuff. So right now, super slim team. It's just four, and
Gotcha.
then my
Gotcha. Nice. Nice. Super cool. Okay, great. And so what are you seeing now? I guess if you were to kind of look at the metrics on your deals, on your metrics, like what are you getting, for Facebook? What are you getting for SMS? And I guess how are you, doing the dispo strategy? Is it innovations? Is it wholesale? Like what kind of is like the metrics on that, on this side?
yeah. Right now, I'd say we're like 80% assignments,
Hmm.
especially within the last like 3 months. We're
Yeah.
doing like innovation here and there. If the property's like super clean, super like it's vacant, we're not doing it with tenants. We're not doing it with homeowners in it, just because I've tried and I've had a lot of issues, and it's just I'm not ready for that process just yet.
Mm,
But we're doing if it's a vacant home, and even if I can just get a cleaner out there to make it presentable, we're listing it on the market and doing innovation. We don't get a ton of those, and then I haven't done them anytime recently, but like earlier in the year, I partnered with one of my buyers that I've built a really good relationship with, and I think we did like 3 deals in like a span of like 40 days. We just partnered on some flips together and made a good profit.
okay, nice, nice. That's great, wonderful. So mostly 80% assignment. So what does it look like in terms of your assignment fee? What are your average deal sizes? In terms of that, that you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. This year it's dropped to like 27. Last year we were actually at 32.
Wow.
So that's kind of where our assignment fee. The year before that, I think it was like 24. So I think our main goal right now is just to keep it at 30. If we can get it at a consistent $30,000, then we only really need to do 5 deals for 150K in revenue, right?
Yeah,
So that's my biggest focus right now is just trying to get our consistent average deal size to $30,000.
for sure. Yeah, and that's amazing. I mean, for you to get $30,000, on an assignment, not necessarily even innovation, which obviously your cash conversion cycle is smaller. So, like, how long does it take for you to close these deals?
like 45 days
45 days. Okay.
from contract to close, depending on the situation, of course. But on average, we're at like 45. We are doing a lot of like tenant occupied deals where we're having to either work with the tenant on the front end to kind of schedule the closing date, cash for keys, or we're working with the if the homeowner doesn't care, then they're okay with us, kind of trying to get the tenant out, especially if it's in like a non-paying tenant, or we've had squatter situations a couple of times this year. So that's it's a real opportunity for us because we're able to we have experience with that, so we can help homeowners. But it's also a big deal killer because sometimes sellers are not willing to wait, and so if we can't get them out, we can't get access to the property, we just can't sell it for nearly as much.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that sounds good. That's a good overview. So let's see. So what are you training on? Like how'd you get good? Obviously, there's like components, right? Like sales,
Yeah.
there's obviously disappointing properties. I guess what I just want to know is like what have you done to train and how someone else could do the same so that you can get the deals sizes that you're getting now and do the deals that you're doing.
I mean, number one is going to be repetition, of course, right? Just actually being in the field, getting the opportunities. That's always going to be number one, and then having some sort of device. I mean, now there's AI. I'm not using any tools or anything like that, but there's AI where you can get it to grade your calls, right, and trying to understand where you can improve there.
For sure.
We use like a tool called Rev, which just you plug it in and then it just transcripts the call. So that allows us to kind of break down the calls and skip to important parts a lot faster.
Yeah.
But as far as like tools and trainings, I think it just comes down to repetition, listening back to your own calls and understand, oh, that didn't sound good. What can I say next time to have the better outcome or for them to understand what I was trying to get across a lot easier. And then just I would say getting different programs, different training programs, getting different styles of sales, right? I've now been in probably like 3 or 4 different sales programs and heard 3 or 4 different like kind of full top to bottom scripts, and I've kind of just taken bits and pieces and created my own, right? I'd say maybe like there's one of them that I'm like heavily like predominantly using, but I've still taken like little bits and pieces from what I learned from other people and implemented it into my own process, right?
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. If you don't mind sharing with us, like which ones you're using mainly, or that maybe the audience could get a hold of to practice, some training calls.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what training programs am I in right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind sharing, man. Chandler Sane, Level Up. He's a that's a great program.
Mm-hmm.
John Lalonde, he teaches like NEPQ sales style. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's where I've learned a lot from, like just learning how to talk to homeowners and reframe the questions I'm asking.
Yeah.
Um, those are the top two, I'd say.
Nice, nice. That's great for sure. Sweet. I personally use the NEPQ script myself.
Nice.
So I know it's good. So yeah. Wonderful. So yeah. So that's great. So tell us a little bit about like I guess your growing pains or your growth. Um, steps, right? So, for example, obviously you started out yourself, right? And so, at what point did you kind of grow into and get a bigger team, like start hiring people, so that you can kind of build up and have an operation, that you have now?
Yeah, absolutely. The way I started was like, I mean, at one point I was like 18 with like 10 cold callers,
Mm,
and like the thing, but like only maybe 2 cold calls were like performing, right? I just wanted to have people and meet with them every day, and
yeah,
so I mean, now, like I said, I have 4 people on my team, and I think I run a pretty slim operation. And I'm just trying to slowly scale from there because I think the mistake I made to answer your question, like the growing pains, was I just went from like here to here. I went from 2 cold callers to 8, and then to 10 or something like that, right?
yeah,
And so I'd say that was. I have a buddy of mine. His name is Jaime. He's in like the Fresno market. I can connect you with him as well if you want to interview him. He's
sure,
a really great example of like just scaling super slow. And I think like not to put his business out there, but I think like from last year to this year, his revenue growth is really great just because he he's tweaking the right levers every single time, and so it's that's like something that I want to take from him is like just learning which things I need to increase and grow in order to make the most exponential growth rather than just increasing random things to try to see what sticks and what works.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So, okay. So for someone that's doing deals, and wants to scale, what would be the first thing to do? Like, um, who would you hire first, I guess? Like, at what point do you tap out as an entrepreneur where you're just on your own, doing things and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I need some help.
Yeah, first hire should definitely be some sort of like admin person, right? Because there's a ton of things, like especially depending on where you're starting. If you're starting with like SMS or cold call, there's gonna be a ton of like admin stuff where you're gonna be doing the list pulling, right? The list sorting, and then the list uploading, and all that stuff. It just takes time. Where if you can just get to your computer and start making calls, you're gonna be able to maximize your time. So I think your first hire should definitely be some sort of like admin or executive assistant to just take all the little busy work task off of your plate so that way you can focus on the most important things. From that, like after hiring an admin person, I would hire like an appointment setter, right? So that way you have somebody that's taking
Yeah.
all the calls of, the leads that are not good, the leads that you don't need to be talking to. So that way you're just talking to people who are ready to sell that you need to make an offer to, right? Obviously, that needs to come with you building the sales skills first.
Right.
But that's kind of like the first two hires I would make, depending on, of course, other people might say different for what route you're taking if you're starting a specific marketing channel or something. But for me, I think definitely an executive assistant and then an appointment setter.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I don't know how you run your business, but is the appointment setter like they get on the phone, they qualify the lead, and then they set an appointment for you later so that you can kind of make the offer, or like how does that work?
Yeah, we've tried live transfers, and honestly, I should probably try to introduce them a little bit better.
Hmm.
But it's not something that I've done like super successfully. So what we'll do is like we're usually scheduling the appointment within like 10 to 15 minutes, right? We're telling them, hey, I have my sales guy. We don't call him sales guy. We just call him, our property specialist. Excuse me, I was blanking. Having our property specialist go to the finance department, get
Yeah.
everything prepared, so that way we can go ahead and make you the best offer. I'm gonna get a quick chance to talk to him. I may not be able to explain everything to him, so he may ask you some of the same questions. Just excuse him about that, right? And then once we hop on the phone, like I said, 10, 15 minutes, ideally, that's when we present him the offer. If there's like an objection and the homeowner is like, oh, I need a couple hours or I'm busy right now, then, we'll schedule it later on. But our ideal option is to schedule it within 10 to 15 minutes.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Yeah, I do live transfers in my business, and I think it's great. And also, I set appointments later. So that's cool. Um, Awesome, awesome, great. So a lot of people ask this question, like what market should I start in? Can you give us pros and cons of starting in a market and how to pick one?
Yeah, that's something I feel like I'm not the most equipped to answer just
Hmm.
because like when did my first deal, I just stuck there and I've kind of just expanded from surrounding counties, right? Surrounding counties that have like the same sort of kind of price point, bedroom, bathroom, setup and everything.
Yeah.
And so I would say stick in your backyard if you can, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sure I've heard a lot of people that would disagree with that, but if you can, I would say stick in your backyard, just to have the opportunity to go in on an in-person appointment if needed. Because I'm sure, I don't know if you guys are running any in-person appointments, but when you go in person, you have a much higher probability of getting that contract signed and a much higher probability of getting it at a lower price. And I can say that from experience, 100%.
For sure. That's nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I've never run an in-person appointment in my life, but I think it's exciting to do it. So what are some tips? Like, when you go into in-person appointments, like, how would you go about it? I mean, for me, for example, like if I'm running like if I'm trying to, talking to a seller,
Yeah.
I usually one call close them. That's what I do. I
Mhm.
run comps and, make an offer and close them on the phone. But I have the script available, right, next to me. So like I kind of know the script, but like I'm reading through it
Yeah.
as well. So I make sure that I kind of miss, not I don't miss any points. So so what do you do, you know, when you go into an in-person appointment? How's your preparation, you know, for that?
Yeah, I think with like, especially now going into an appointment with like NEPQ in mind, where it's
Hmm.
like we're trying to, problem awareness, solution awareness. Where I have like the certain questions that I know that I want to get to, and I'm just trying to kind of fill in the gaps. That's been much easier for me to go into an appointment with. Whereas
Yeah.
before, I would say that I wasn't the best. Like I'd go into in-person appointments, but I think if you go into there with like just like a certain framework of like, okay, well, I need to know why this person is trying to sell, and then is that reason even creating any urgency? Can
Hmm.
I increase that urgency with certain questions, little things like that? Um, but I think it's really just more about like I guess small appointment tips. Like I don't go there with anything in my hand, like any folder, any papers.
Yeah.
I go there just kind of completely empty-handed. And then if I get when we get to the point where it's an agreement, it's like, all right, great. I'm gonna go to the car, get the agreement, and then and there's never any issue with that. Like they're not gonna lock the door on me after I go back to the
Oh,
car, right?
nice.
So
The last
it's
minute
it's not
resistance.
right, right. It's a little bit different from hanging up on the phone and you try to give them a call back and they don't answer, right?
Yeah.
But trying to think of I guess I've heard different, but I always do like a tour around the home, walk around with them at the home, and then I'll ask them, hey, is there a place we can sit? Just kind of have a quick little chat, and then just kind of go from there, right? Just open up the conversation. I think that's where the communication skills come in to where just you can naturally extend the conversation and open up the conversation without it feeling forced, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. When you were talking about the kind of the script, you know, more or less, I think one of the important questions are um, like the consequence question, you know,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
I love that one. Could you go ahead and give us a rundown how it goes? Like, you know?
Yeah, so obviously, if there's like a homeowner is in a situation where they want to get to their, I'm blanking, excuse me. Let's say their
Their
siblings,
dream
right? That are,
outcome. Yeah.
yeah, their dream outcome. I was trying to think of like a specific scenario. Their siblings out of state to take care of them, and they're giving you a little bit of resistance to sign the offer, right? You kind of just ask them a question of like, hey, how long are we willing to kind of wait until your siblings are even sicker and not able to take care of themselves until you're ready to sell this property, right? To get them to really feel what that consequence would be if they
Mm-hmm.
don't go ahead and make that decision. Honestly, I'll be honest, that's something that I don't implement a ton into it just because that's a little bit of like a pushier sales style for me.
Yeah.
But I have done it before, and it's like I don't know if I've had the most success with it, but I definitely
Okay.
like the idea of. Is that something you guys have a lot of success with?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't work with every kind of seller, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
obviously there has to be a kind of seller that like understands that there's something that's going to happen. So sometimes I don't, you know, I don't go there with the question, right? Because
Yeah,
it's like, oh, nothing really happens, you know, if we wait 3 or 4 months, you know, before we can actually sell and, you know,
of course. Yeah.
and so I don't ask the question a ton as well in all scenarios, but when there is a scenario is like, for example, you know, like there's a foreclosure happening, right? Or there's like, you know, someone has medical problems and they need to sell, right? And so um some of these things are like, oh well, even seasons, for example, like they want to move before December, you know, before the winter comes because they don't want to move during the winter, right? And so
Yeah.
there's like little things that I guess that you can use, and it's perfect if you can use it because it kind of makes them like, you know, understand that like, you know, if they wait, then it's not good for them. It's just better for them to rather get it over with now. So that's just kind of some of the things that we use that we do
Yeah.
here. That's awesome. Um, so tell us a little bit about you know, the way you dispo properties. Like what's your process? You know, to you know, once you get a property, like what would you do to like what do you do to dispo it? You know.
Yeah, so I'd say we have like probably just under like 30 buyers within a few of our main counties. I'm in like 5 or 6 counties. I'd say like three of them are our main counties where we do probably like 50 to 60% of our deals, probably a little bit higher than that.
Hmm.
And within those counties, if we get a deal, it's like 10 to 15 buyers that I send the deal to immediately, right? Trying to get access, trying to get them into the property, depending on what the restrictions are with, the tenant, if it's vacant, whatnot, if I get a lockbox on it. It really obviously, depends per deal. If I can get people in there right away, same day, same week, I am. And then trying to get offers from those 10 to 15 people, because I know those are people that I've done deals with in the past. They pay a little bit more than some of these other people that I've talked to and vetted out. And so I think to answer your question, it's really more just about having a vetted out buyers list and people that you can go to first. And then obviously if those 10 to 15 people aren't buying it, then the rest of the list more than likely isn't going to be able to buy it at the price, but I'll still shoot it out to them, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say right now, like our buyers list isn't really huge. Like it's probably less than 200 buyers in our 5 to 6 counties. And those are people that I've actually, either me or my executive assistant has had conversations with and asked a few questions back and forth and, took down some notes about them and log them into our CRM, right? From there, we'll use tools like Investor Base to kind of look at who was buying properties nearby or around at a decent price and just call them up directly and see if they're interested. That's more of like a newer tool to us, I'd say, within the last 3-4 months as well. So I think we've only used that tool to sell 1 or 2 deals so far. Everything else is kind of being sold within our immediate buyers list.
Nice. And those immediate buyers, I mean, that's great, by the way. You have like a buyers list. How'd you get those buyers? Was it like pulling lists or like how?
Yeah, I've had Investor Lift in the past,
Mhm.
where so like Investor Lift, you can pull a list of buyers, and we would do SMS blast, email blast, text. We never cold called them, um, but then once they respond by either text or email, then we'll actually get on the phone with them, and that's where that just under 200 buyers kind of came from that list.
Mm. Nice, nice. That's good. That's cool. Not good. Okay. Great. Wonderful. So, tell us a little bit about, you know, I guess another thing that I find interesting is like, when you anchor, the property, like the price, right? So, like, do you do that in your sales process?
Yeah, our appointment setters are doing that. Not if the seller comes out and gives us a price like, hey, I'm looking to be around here, depending on where that is compared to Zillow, because I'm not having my appointment setters run comps or anything. They're just kind
Mm.
of looking at Zillow, and I'm telling them to take that with a grain of salt. Just
Yeah.
depending on where that number's at, they use their conscious to kind of see whether they're gonna make an anchor or give an anchor to the seller or not. And it's typically around 60 to 65% of that Zillow price. And the
Nice.
way they usually present that is like, hey, I'm looking at other properties that are selling in the area, not necessarily what our offer is going to be, and they'll try to make it a little bit lighthearted. Sometimes sellers have and especially older people, they have a hard time understanding what we're actually presenting to them. They think like, oh, that's your offer. I'm sure you guys have gotten that before. So we try different things to make them understand and kind of I guess just pre for it that we're not actually making them an offer yet. We're just giving them what other properties are selling for in the area.
For sure. Awesome. That's great. And so tell us a little bit about what it takes, to build a wholesaling business. What are you doing a month roughly? Like how many deals are you closing and do you have any idea what your track record is right now?
Yeah, I'd say right now we're doing about 3 deals a month. We're locking up about 5 contracts or so, and then from those 5 contracts we're doing about 3 closings a month.
Nice. So you're averaging about close to 100, right?
Yeah, I think 70 to 90K a month right now.
Nice. Um, could you tell us a little bit about like what it takes as a leader? For example, having to do all of these things together is like having a little team you're orchestrating, right? And so, what does it take to be a leader? To be able to kind of do volume and get out of that one deal a month kind of situation into more consistent months and everything. To actually continue doing business.
Yeah, just consistency, really showing up every single day. And I know it's as easy as it sounds, right? But it's really, I mean, you look at most people, and it's harder than it looks, right? To show up every day and do the work and do the things that you don't necessarily want to do, but need to get done, right? That's really all it is. Because most people know exactly what it is that needs to get done. They just do everything else. So if you know what needs to get done, just doing those two or three things and getting really good at those two or three things and making sure that those two or three things are the most revenue generating activities that you can build skills at.
Gotcha. So that's just getting on the phone, doing follow-ups, uh, and some other things. Could you tell us some of the things that you do?
Yeah.
For example, to make sure you're on top of leads to convert them, and nurture them.
Yeah, I guess like aside from specific like alerts within our Slack groups, right? So like on when we get a lead, not only I'll get a text on my phone, and then my sales guy will get a text on his phone because he has a U.S. based phone number as well.
Hmm.
Uh, and then we have a Slack thread. It's called inbound lead alerts, and then we have another one that's called outbound lead alerts. And
Hmm.
so as soon as we get a lead, we get an alert in there, and it'll literally say a new lead. It'll say the name, property address, and then the lead source. And so
Yeah.
and then obviously, if we're on the CRM, we're getting like a little notif on the top. So we're getting like three different notifications for a new lead. The idea is to call that within the first 3 minutes that it comes in.
Nice.
That's kind of like, and then as far as like to stay on top of them, I guess just having a solid CRM that you can create task appointments, create nurture sequences, drip campaigns within your CRM is huge. Just having a tool like that, you can do that. We're using Resimply for our CRM. Um,
Sure.
what was the? I think
Nice.
there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
question.
that was the question. Yeah, like how do you stay on
Okay.
top of leads,
Yeah.
So yeah, so you call them really fast and then just have tasks set up and then, make sure that you're keeping up with those tasks. And when it comes to like, your text campaigns or I don't know if you do any of those or emails, if you do any, do you have any kind of specific or special or specific kind of templates you use that have a good response rate that maybe re-engage some leads that maybe don't answer in the future or just kind of get them to revive?
That's a great question. I think we're constantly changing them out. The one thing I've always found, like especially within this business, I mean, this is the only business I've done, but it's like something will work for a while, but then it'll stop working, right? It's like, and especially with like things that you're doing repeatedly, right? So like with Facebook ads, like if you have one ad out and that's just you're exhausting that ad after a couple weeks, that $60 per lead is going to easily shoot up to like 150. Same
Mm,
thing with SMS templates, right? We have one template that we're getting a really great result with, and then after a couple months, that result just shoots down. It's like our response rate is like half as what it was a few months ago. And so I think the biggest tip with that, with like templates, is obviously using tools like ChatGPT, where it's like, hey, create me 10 different variations of this template, right? I'm sure you
mhm.
guys are doing something like that, where it's like, and then just kind of like changing out different, like the first three different words and switching them out, and just kind of just being able to test, right? Having a budget to be able to test, right? Because you have a certain budget that's used for what's working and that that is going to create a return, and then you should have a smaller budget for testing and things that you want to see if we're going to work. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, something that we've done in our business that I think has increased our show rates is whenever we have a lead come in. For example, we do TikTok ads. Um,
Okay.
so so what we do is we have a thank you page right after, and in the thank you
Mm,
page, we tell them like, hey, um, you know, you can call us directly to set up an appointment with us. And
I like
so,
that.
so I've actually had people call in, trying to set up an appointment, and we just treat them as like a lead that's inbound, and we just, close them over the phone right away. The second option we give them is the ability to book a call. So we have a
Yeah.
Calendly. So like,
Yeah.
you can call in to book your appointment. You can schedule online, you know, and then we have the link at the bottom so they can just click it. And then the last thing is we tell them, hey, if you don't want to do any of these, like we'll call you, but we're going to call you from this number, like this area code. And
Mm,
so that what that does is that it gives them like all the opportunities that you can to like possibly get a lead,
right.
to do something,
Yeah.
and you're letting them know which one you're going to call from, so that the pickup rates are even higher because they expect your phone call and they see your number, and so that works really well. And
I love that.
Yeah, yeah, that's something that we're introducing right now. And one thing that we're doing as well is we're doing like a VSL. I'm shooting one right now, and
Hmm.
it's I don't know. We're just gonna send it out saying like, hey, would you want to watch this, with me on the call or before the call? And either way, they watch it, right? But if they watch it, then they understand the way you work, like your process, how you get to your offer, and all of these things. So I think that also builds like some nurture, with with the lead.
Hmm.
So yeah, those are some things that were working for us. And the last thing is we book a meeting from a meeting. You know, so if we're talking to a seller on the phone, we never leave the call without booking another meeting.
Yeah.
Like always, like no matter what, you have to have a meeting. So that's what we do. So yeah, that's some things that we do. Now, what are you like? For example, people always ask like, what does it take, to get to that, $100,000 a month mark, right? And you mentioned something like consistency, but I noticed that you've gotten into these programs like Chandos Lane's program and John LeJohn's program, where there's some more people there that are doing higher figures. What do you see, or that is amongst you guys, that is a that I guess that you guys have that allows you to do that? That I guess that the community, does that help you at all? Like being in a community, or like
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Being in a community is huge just because you're surrounded with other people that are doing more than what you're doing in the space of what you're doing.
mm,
I think what a lot of these people have, what I believe myself has, and I'm sure you have as well, is that like you're willing to take the risk, right? You're willing to lose some money in order to make money. And I
mm,
feel like the average person or most people aren't willing to do that, right? They're not willing to invest in themselves because what if it doesn't work, right? What if you don't get that return? What if the guarantee to make $10,000 a month doesn't happen, right? And so
right,
I think that's something that I've really seen was like these people are willing to take the risk, and that goes back into just the consistency of going and showing up every single day and doing the work, and there being a risk of no money or no revenue or nothing coming in, right? And I think that's the way we all started, right? But
yeah,
I don't know how did you start? Did you like start cold calling, texting,
yeah.
inbound leads?
So my journey, my story, the way it begins is like I went to a Grant Cardone seminar, and
Mm-hmm.
he was teaching multifamily, and I got all like, oh, all jitty about like multifamily.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me go try to find a multifamily deal. And so I cold called for a couple of months, and I found a multifamily deal. And we were, I found a partner like who had done deals before me, and so he was
Yeah.
kind of walking me through the process. And we were supposed to make around $40,000 to $50,000 on that deal.
Uh,
It was a 6 unit deal in Albany, Georgia, and rents were, I think, 250. And fair market rents in the area were 800 with HUD,
mm,
and so it was a huge value add. And so we got it locked up at 140. We could have sold it at 180 or 190, but we had a buyer that was supposed to buy it at a price close to that, but he dragged us out so long, and he had lending problems. He was like, he was basically getting 100% financing, and so at the
mm,
end of the day, like, we just decided to give him the deal for like $10,000 because like there was no other way to get the deal done. And so I walked away with a little bit of money, but it was a great learning experience. And took me a couple of months to get the deal, and then like it was like 6 months to close. So
yeah.
it was a long process, but I learned from it, and then I decided that multifamily is not uh, the asset class to be in for wholesaling, because it just takes
Right.
longer, and the sellers are unmotivated, not as motivated as the single family ones. And
Of
so
course. Yeah.
that's kind of how I got started. But yeah, what are your KPIs? What do you measure like in your business? That you can tell the audience to measure. What are the
Yeah, I
metrics?
think the biggest thing to track is the manufacturing line, right? Leads, net leads, right? So net lead is just anybody that is, for us, it's a confirmed homeowner, right? Somebody that enters our system and has a property that they want to sell, whether they're motivated or not, asking a discounted price or not. As long as they have a property to sell, it's a net lead. So we're tracking the amount of new leads, net leads, appointments set, offers made, contract signed, close deals, and then obviously you want to track your average deal size. And then like there's so many KPIs you can track, per, excuse me, like per marketing channel, per acquisition rep. But obviously, like you want to understand your cost per appointment and your cost per contract, cost per close deal, so that way you can, like I was talking about earlier, make sure that you're fixing the right levers. Right, that's something I'm still learning to understand within my KPIs and to make decisions based off of data, not based of what I want to do just because of what I feel. Right.
Gotcha. Yeah. And what are you doing now? I mean, I guess I don't really know how texting works, but we can get into that in a little bit. But how much are you getting, I guess, in ROAS from Facebook ads? Which is
Yeah. Within
yeah.
the last like 4 months, I think we're at like 3.8.
Okay. Nice. Cool. And how does texting work? So because from what I understand, it's heavily regulated. I honestly I don't know, how it works. So how are you doing that?
Yeah, I know. In like, I think in Texas, like it's super off limits or something like that. From what I've heard,
Yeah.
maybe wrong. I haven't had any issues. I haven't never been sued. I've been like maybe threatened to be sued like one or two times, like a few years ago, but nothing has happened anytime recently. We haven't had any issues, and we're getting a return. So we keep doing it. I think for SMS, like this year it's closer to like five, but overall we're at like eight x ROI.
Gotcha. So the way texting works is how you like what do you do?
We use a platform called Smarter Contact. You
Uh-huh.
just you upload lists, you attach templates, and you just schedule the text, and the text just go out automatically.
Hmm.
Responses come in, and then based off of those responses, you just have different buckets that you can put them into, right? So like not interested, uh, people who want to sell to a realtor, and then pushing the leads to the CRM. And those leads that are pushed to the CRM, appointment setter calls them up and qualifies them and sees if we should make them an offer or not.
Okay, nice, nice. That's wonderful. That's super interesting. That must be pretty quite time saving, I guess. Like if you just have one person who's just texting all of them at the same time, you can get
Yeah.
a lot done, right?
Yeah, so that one person is sending about, I think, just under, I can tell you right now. Let me look at the end of day report. I think it's, I want to say like 2,500 text messages per day.
Wow.
Oh no, I'm sorry, like 3,400 text messages
34.
per day. Um, and it's like on a daily basis, we're getting like four leads from that. So like, our idea is to be under 1,000 leads to a text, and it's been, I mean, we've been at like 500 leads to a text, 400 leads to a text right now with how everything is and what our KPIs are. If we can be under 1,000 leads to a text, then I think we're in a good spot.
Nice, nice. That's wonderful. Awesome. So great.
All
So
right,
let's
1,000 texts to a lead. My bad.
1,000 texts to a lead.
Yeah,
Right.
I was 1,000 lead to a text. No, 1,000 texts to one lead.
Yeah, 1,000 texts to one lead. Okay, great. So wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about I guess the things that most people may have some struggles with. I don't know if you've done novations before. Like, can you explain a novation and and also you know how you dispo? Like, I guess is there a way you try to get buyers to bid themselves up to get higher dispo prices, sales prices?
Hmm. Yeah, so I think we've done like maybe four innovations, and the simplest way for me to like kind of break it down would be you're replacing the contract that you have with the seller with a different contract that you're creating with the buyer and the seller, and you're
Hmm.
collecting your fee still there, but just not through an assignment fee.
Hmm.
Um, Novation, from what I've heard, like from the way I've heard it be explained, is like it's an exit strategy, right?
Hmm.
Whereas the MLS is just a marketing platform, right? You're listing the property on the MLS to get retail buyers, and then the novation is the exit strategy that you're using in order to get the deal transacted,
Yeah.
to replace your contract with a new contract. As far as like strategies that we're using to get buyers up, I think it's just conversing with them. I don't have a dispo manager, so I'm the one. If we are putting a deal on the MLS, I'm the one taking those conversations. I'm not posing as an agent. I just let them know that we are assisting the homeowners with the transaction of the property. And then, obviously, once we go ahead and accept an offer or we get a little bit deeper into conversations, we're very transparent with like, hey, we're just, a home buying company. We do a ton of these every single month, even though we're not doing a ton of novations, but we are doing a ton of transactions every month, and this is kind of what our process is. But yeah, I don't think we have any like specific, or I don't have any specific strategies to like bid buyers up. I think it's, especially like right now with where the market's at, like I'm not even wanting to do novations or, MLS deals just because it's taken a long time, especially in my market. Properties are sitting unless you're getting them like at a really good price, which at that point for us, we're just going to assign it.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. Okay, so could you tell us a little bit about how you structure your day? So I guess like what you do when you get up, and like what the little things you have, or have put in place. You kept up that kind of make things work. Like for example, you talked about an end of day report. I wonder what other things like that you have in your business that kind of keep you up to date into what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as like the way I structure my day, business wise, my first thing that I do is like from 9 to 11, I'm trying to sit down. Like I was saying, I'm still making sales calls. I'm just trying to call the highest quality leads, right? That's my time to like where I feel the sharpest of the day, and I'm just trying to make calls, just trying to talk to homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there at 11 o'clock, I'll do a huddle with my sales guy. So my one acquisition guy, an appointment setter, and I'm just kind of talking to them. Hey, how's the last 2 hours been, right? Because again, for me, I feel like if I'm the sharpest, then most people are probably the sharpest in the morning. Maybe not. Maybe some people are not morning people. Maybe I don't drink coffee, but I know coffee
Oh
drinkers. If
wow.
they don't have their coffee,
Yeah.
like my appointment center has those days sometimes. But for me, I
Yeah.
try to meet with them at 11 because I'm like, hey, first 2 hours of the day, how's it been? What type of conversations we've been having? What can I help you guys with? Maybe so we're spending maybe anywhere from like sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, right? Listening to a call, breaking down, a scenario, me giving them advice. We'll upload a call into Rev, transcript it, and just have a conversation, right? So those calls can vary, like I said, sometimes half an hour, sometimes an hour. And then from that, so let's say that ends around noon, and then I'll just have like a meal. I just kind of chill out. I work from home, right? This is my house. So
Yeah.
I have my two dogs here. So sometimes just having a meal, sitting in the backyard, just chilling in the backyard, relaxing, just hanging out with them. And then like get back to work around like one or so, and just kind of just seeing what needs to be done, right? I'll typically around like one or two, I'll meet with either my executive assistant or like my texter, sometimes both of them together, just because they work really closely with each other on like a lot of the admin stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just like saying, hey, anything that needs my attention, anything that you guys need from me. And then typically like I'll have like a couple of tasks for them to kind of take off my plate. And then from there, this is where like that discipline and that consistency comes in and show, because from there it's like everybody else on my team has the job that they're supposed to be doing, and they're just kind of in front of their computer doing it. And so it's up to me to where it's like I can, kind of screw off for the rest of the day and just hang out, or I can have that discipline and do the highest revenue task, which for me is often going to be more sales calls or listening to my sales team and seeing how I can coach them to be better.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Wonderful. And super. And then let me ask you this. So, what kind of price point is the homes that you guys are wholesaling, more or less, in your area or in your counties? You know,
Like 2 to 400,000.
2 to 4. Okay.
Yeah.
S- So I see. So on average, I mean, you guys are getting 10 to 15% of like the purchase price as an assignment fee, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because it makes it hard. Because I guess one of the questions that I was asking is, when you get into your market, for example, like if your market, I don't know, it's like Detroit and houses are like $50,000, it's gonna be hard to make $20,000 pops or,
Right, of course.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So if you're in a market, like Emilio's, or you can get in a market like that, then it would be better, for the the person doing the deals.
Right.
So great. So tell me a little bit about I guess you mentioned something recently. You were like, "Oh, I just got baptized," and so just want to see like what other things factor in your life that I think make you, you know, a good, you know, disciplined entrepreneur or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Faith is something that I'm really trying to prioritize in my life and make number one. I think I've always believed in God. I've always known that there is a higher power, but I've never put that first in my life. So I think, within my business, within my family, within everything that's going on, if I can put that first, I know that I will be a much more rounded individual, and I'll be able to lead my business and my family into a much better place. So aside from that, I think my life really is just right now trying to grow my faith and bring my family to the faith, as well as just trying to have a consistent business where I can provide for my family and myself as well, and the lifestyle that I want to build.
Nice. That's awesome. Cool. And I see a lot of things, you know, in social media. It seems like some people are like advertising to Spanish sellers. Are you doing any of that, or are you just mostly focusing with, you know, like English speaking sellers?
Yeah, we're not. I've considered it. I
Uh-huh.
was just because I do speak Spanish, not the best, but I can speak Spanish, and I had one like about 4 months ago. I had one acquisition manager that was a fluent Spanish speaker, and so we were gonna run it, but I ended up letting go of him because he wasn't performing, and
Mm.
just haven't. But is that something you guys are doing?
No, no, we haven't yet, but I just met someone here in Florida. His name's Donovan Camarati. I think he's 22, just like you. And
Okay.
he's doing big months. He's doing only in Florida. He does novations mainly and wholesales. He was a fix and flipper before, and he's doing about like 150 a month. And he's netting like 100. And so the thing that he did, he told me in his in his podcast, you know, or previous podcast, was that he started doing Spanish speaking sellers, like advertisements on
Mm.
Facebook, and he got his cost per lead down, you know, because there
Yeah.
was no competition. And
Yeah, for sure.
so I was like, that's great. I also speak Spanish, you know, so I was like, that's amazing. Maybe I could try it. And I one of the things that I'm considering is my dad is a salesperson back in Colombia, and
Uh,
he's now doing like valet stuff here. He's trying to get his feet up and stuff. But I was like, maybe I can teach him how to do it, and maybe he can do it. Have you ever worked with
right.
family or friends, or have you ever had any kind of experience like that? Or
Not directly, no.
hmm
Trying to think, like, yeah, no. Like I've considered hiring friends, like for the sales role. Like starting them off as like appointment setters, just trying to get like, especially like friends that have reached out to me, like, oh, I see what you're doing, I'm interested, things like that.
yeah,
But no, I haven't specifically worked with a friend or family.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah. That's just something that I question myself about if it's a good, you know, idea, good move. Um,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So awesome. So, Emilio, tell us, is there anything that you think that we didn't cover that you think would be valuable for the audience to know? Um,
No, but you asked great questions. I'm thinking. No, I honestly, there's nothing I can think of right now that we didn't talk about.
gotcha. Great. So I think this is a great time to you know just close up the conversation. People that stuck to the end, you know, what would be the best, like, what would be the next step you would tell them to take, you know, if they were interested, you know, I
Yeah,
guess.
depending on like where you're at with it, like your understanding of wholesaling. If you've started
Interesting.
making calls already, I would really just focus on putting all of your effort and all of your time into the highest revenue generating activities, which is going to be talking to homeowners, and then of course that's going to allow you to build the sales skills and build the confidence and the communication abilities to be able to talk to these people and know what you're talking about.
Mm,
Um, Aside from that, I think I like we kind of covered it where it's like the next step would be to get off all the admin stuff off your plate, right? And then we're
yeah.
kind of just covering what we talked about earlier, but I
Mm,
think that's like would be the easiest step for to get started, right? Build the skills, have the confidence, spend most of your time doing the highest revenue generating activities, and then get all the little things off your plate.
gotcha. Amazing. And wonderful. So Emilio, are you on social media? Are you putting out content? Where can we find you? We want to hear more from you.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just started making some YouTube videos. You can find me on Instagram. It's Emilio Lara, but the L in the Lara is a one, so it's Emilio one ARA. And then the link to my YouTube channel is on there. So it's the same thing as well. It's Emilio Lara. So yeah, I just started posting some videos, just kind of starting to document my journey. Like we talked about, I've been doing this since I was 17, but for the first like 4 years of me doing this, I wasn't documenting anything at all. I was just kind of head down, just making calls in my bedroom, and just trying to make as much money as I can. But now I want to have something that I can look back on and be able to, just document my journey and see my growth, right? And then
Yeah.
obviously it's something to hold me accountable as well, just because I know my growth over the last 5 years, but I don't want to stop there. And so I felt like I don't know where, if you've been through a season of your life of kind of, complacency or kind
Mm.
of, just kind of feeling like you were, hitting a plateau. I feel
Yeah.
like I have hit a time like that, and it was really important for me. And that's why I wanted to start documenting my process to kind of hold myself accountable. Like, all right, this is where I am now. Another 5 years from now, I'm got to be, in a completely different position, right?
Well, well, yeah. Let's finish off with that. What's your vision? For 5 years. If you were to, put
Yeah,
it down.
absolutely. So I haven't really dialed it in as far as like how many years I want to be wholesaling, but I know within the next like 10 years, I no longer want to be wholesaling houses, wholesaling, real estate. I guess my idea now, and I'm sure this is going to change 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now,
Yeah.
but for now it's to make as much money as I can and stack up as much capital as I can. So by the time I'm 30, I can go and just purchase a 30 or 40 unit apartment complex, and from there just work on something that I really enjoy, just because I know that wholesale real estate is a wonderful way to make money. I'm super blessed by God that he put this into my mind and allowed me to enter into this pathway at such a young age. But I know it's not something I love. I know it's not something I enjoy. I know it's not something I want to do forever. So I'm
Hmm.
going to take advantage of it. I'm going to do as much as I can with it over the next 5 years or however long I do this, however long God has for me to be doing this. And then from there, my idea is to just go into a much bigger asset class and just do something that I really enjoy, something that I love, something that I have a passion for.
Amazing. Sweet. Awesome. So Emilio, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights, your journey, and we want to have you on in the future, hopefully, just to see how things progress. And so love to have that. But for anyone that's here to the end of the video, check out Emilio and yeah, just go take some action. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Emilio.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you, Julian.